In the latest session of Prime Minister's Questions (PMQs), a weekly highlight of British political discourse, Sir Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, engaged in a vigorous exchange with Badenoch, the Conservative Party spokesperson. This midweek ritual serves as a crucial platform for party leaders to publicly challenge each other on key issues facing the nation. During this session, Badenoch did not hold back in her criticism of Starmer's proposed reforms to the school system. She labeled these initiatives as an act of vandalism, suggesting that they would not only disrupt the current educational framework, but also fundamentally undermine the quality of education that students receive across the country. This strong language reflects a growing tension in British politics, particularly regarding education, which has consistently been a significant area of concern for both parties. Education remains a pivotal issue in UK politics, affecting millions of families and shaping the future workforce. The debate often centers around funding, curriculum choices, and the overall approach to teaching and learning. Starmer's plans, which aim to overhaul certain aspects of the education system, have sparked fierce debate and division among political factions. Badenoch's choice of words, referring to reforms as vandalism, is particularly striking. It suggests a deep-seated belief that Starmer's proposals are not merely misguided, but could potentially lead to long-term damage to the educational landscape. Such rhetoric is indicative of the high stakes involved in educational policy, where decisions made today can have lasting implications for generations to come. During the PMQs, the atmosphere was charged. Starmer, positioned as the challenger, sought to outline the necessity of his reforms, arguing that they are essential to address the disparities in the education system that have been exacerbated by recent economic challenges. He emphasized that these reforms aim to ensure that every child, regardless of their background, has access to high-quality education. In contrast, Badenoch's rebuttals were sharp and focused on the potential pitfalls of Starmer's proposals. She highlighted concerns regarding the feasibility of implementing such sweeping changes, questioning the source of funding and the practical implications for teachers and students alike. Her arguments were underscored by a sense of urgency, reflecting the Conservative Party's stance that stability and continuity in education are paramount. The exchange at PMQs is not just about individual policies. It reflects broader ideological divides within British politics. On one side, Starmer advocates for progressive reforms aimed at fostering equity and modernizing the educational framework. On the other, Badenoch represents a conservative viewpoint that values tradition and caution, arguing that drastic changes could lead to unintended consequences. This debate extends beyond party lines, resonating with parents, educators, and policymakers. Many are watching closely, as the outcome of this political discourse could influence future generations. The education system is often seen as a reflection of societal values, and how it evolves can signal changing priorities within the government. In the latest developments from the political arena, the atmosphere was charged during the weekly Prime Minister's Questions (PMQs) session, where Sir Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, engaged in a heated debate with Badenoch, the Conservative Party's representative and a prominent figure in the current government. The focal point of their discussion revolved around proposed reforms to the education system, a topic that has become increasingly contentious in recent political discourse. Badenoch did not hold back in her condemnation of Starmer's proposed reforms, labeling them an act of vandalism. This phrase was particularly striking, as it evokes a sense of destruction and recklessness, suggesting that Starmer's plans could undermine the very foundation of the education system. Badenoch's strong rhetoric reflects a broader trend in political discussions where language is often deliberately provocative, aiming to galvanize support from constituents who may feel strongly about the integrity of educational institutions. Sir Keir Starmer, stepping into the role of the opposition leader, has been advocating for changes aimed at improving educational outcomes, particularly in underfunded areas. His party's proposals include increased investment in schools, a focus on mental health support for students, and a push for a more inclusive curriculum that addresses the diverse needs of the population. However, these reforms have been met with skepticism from the Conservative side, which argues that such changes could lead to a dilution of standards and an over-reliance on government intervention. The term act of vandalism, used by Badenoch, is indicative of the broader ideological divide between the two parties. The Conservatives often position themselves as champions of traditional values and fiscal responsibility, arguing that educational reform should be approached with caution and an emphasis on maintaining high standards without excessive governmental oversight. In contrast, the Labour Party seeks to address systemic inequalities and believes that proactive measures are necessary to create a more equitable society. The discussion during PMQs is not merely an exchange of viewpoints. It serves as a barometer for public sentiment regarding education and government policy. Education is a topic that resonates deeply with voters, as it directly impacts future generations and the overall social fabric. The framing of Starmer's reforms as vandalism aims to rally support among those who fear that rapid changes could lead to unintended consequences. As the session unfolded, both leaders presented their arguments with fervor. Badenoch emphasized the need for stability and continuity in the education system, suggesting that the proposed reforms could lead to confusion and disruption for teachers and students alike. She highlighted the importance of maintaining a curriculum that prioritizes core subjects, arguing that any deviation could compromise the quality of education. On the other hand, Starmer countered by underscoring the urgent need for reform in light of the challenges faced by many schools, particularly those in disadvantaged areas. He pointed to evidence indicating that students in these environments often struggle due to a lack of resources and support. By framing his proposals as necessary interventions rather than radical changes, Starmer aimed to portray himself as a pragmatic leader focused on the long-term success of the education system. The PMQ session not only showcased the clash of ideas between Starmer and Badenoch, but also highlighted the broader political landscape in the UK. As the nation grapples with various issues, including economic uncertainty and social inequality, education remains a key battleground. The outcomes of these debates will likely influence public perception and, ultimately, the direction of future policies. In the wake of this exchange, educators, parents, and students are left to ponder the implications of the proposed reforms. The discourse surrounding education reform is often fraught with emotion, as it touches on the aspirations and hopes of families for a better future. As such, it is crucial for both parties to engage in constructive dialogue that prioritizes the needs of students while also considering the perspectives of educators and communities. In conclusion, the exchange between Sir Keir Starmer and Kemi Badenoch during PMQs underscores the complexities of political debate surrounding education reform. As both parties navigate these challenging waters, the decisions made today will have lasting impacts on the educational landscape of the UK. The rhetoric used in these discussions will shape public opinion and influence the trajectory of future reforms, making it essential for political leaders to balance their convictions with the realities faced by schools and families across the country.